Good afternoon, Knicks Nation. Please, for some of you that are bothered by the fan that's over my shoulder, please don't worry about it. It's not close to my head. It just appears to be close to my head. It's very far from me, and it's helping keep me cool on this muggy day. So please don't worry about that. Okay. Today is Sunday. It's a special Sunday edition of Raw Hebrew Remnant repping the New York Knicks. Sunday, August the 1st, 2021. Believe we're in the 8th month of the year already. It's really going by fast. Today, what I want to do is go over some free agency updates ahead of tomorrow's 6 o'clock beginning of the free agency period as it pertains to the New York Knicks, and some changes that are being made and also some trends that we looked at. But before I do that, I hope you're COVID free. I hope you're healthy today. I hope you're safe today. I hope your family is also COVID free, healthy, and safe, and that the needs of your family and yourself in terms of food, shelter, and clothing, as well as good health, are being met. Blessings even today upon those that work in the healthcare field, that even today are out here trying to save lives. Blessings upon those that are picking up garbage for us to keep our places clean. Blessings upon those that are making deliveries and make deliveries for us, from food in the supermarkets to the pizza while you're watching TV and everything in between, for our convenience. Also, double blessings on those trying to deliver boys and girls, men and women and children from the clutches of sex slave, human trafficking operations. Just today, they found at least 15 grown men, in a sex slave operation involving underage children and teenagers. And they busted them, thank goodness. Double curses upon those that support these industries, and blessings upon those trying to deliver and having delivered these particular children and others from such situations. Finally, blessings upon those that are the homeless and those that are working on behalf of the homeless. 600,000 people in the United States alone, millions around the world without a roof over their heads. Blessings upon them themselves and those that are helping, for theirs is the kingdom. So, we talked about free agency, and we're dealing with that starting tomorrow, Monday, the 2nd of August at 6 p.m. So let's talk about it. Recently, it's been reported in several Boston outlets that the Celtics are losing ground. One says the Boston Celtics lose ground in talks with Fournier. And the NESN says the Celtics reportedly unwilling to meet Evan Fournier contract demand. And then another one, NBC Sports, Fournier and Celtics far apart in contract talks. And in every one of these articles and others, they mentioned the New York Knicks as a possible destination, including Ian Begley. So this being the case, let's talk about Evan Fournier. Now, Evan Fournier is basically an over 40% three-point shooter, so he fits the bill there. He's not as good a defender as a Reggie Bullock, and we're going to talk about Reggie in a second, but I think he can fit. He's not a horrible defender, so I think he can fit in our defensive system. He's killing it for France. It was him that really killed the United States in the France-USA game. And so he's really at his peak right now. Evan Fournier is in his prime. He's 28 years old. And so he is looking for 4 years, problem number one, and $80 million. And the Celtics are not willing to budge on that. So let me just bring up a trend that I've noticed that is happening in the NBA. Many years ago, back in the 70s and 80s, especially the 80s, once Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and then followed by Michael Jordan, came into the NBA, the salaries of the NBA players, were started to escalate. And then you started getting companies like Nike involved, and then later on other companies, and then now ABC and ESPN, which is the same company, are involved also with contracts, television contracts, that help raise the salaries to really high levels. So in order for the owners to control themselves and not try to outspend each other, and for the bigger markets like New York or LA to outbid other teams, the NBA instituted, as we know, a salary cap. Okay. And so there's a cap on how much each team could spend on NBA players for their team. And then if you exceed the cap, there is a tax. You can go up to a certain amount, and then you're going to pay a luxury tax. It's a complicated formula, but just to give you a general idea, it's basically $2 for every dollar you spend. It could even be more than that, but it's basically $2 for every dollar you spend over a cap. So if you go ahead and sign a player for $20 million and you're over the cap, over the luxury tax by $20 million, you're basically spending $40 million for that player, because you're going to spend another 20 in taxes, right? So that puts a control on the teams. So they got to play within these rules. And so you can see them doing all kind of moves to keep within these rules. But the trend that's going on is that your superstar players, your top 10 players in the NBA. So you're talking about, and I'm talking about top 10 players in their prime years, not like we're not talking about CP3 or Lowry right now. Those players are past their prime, though they're really good still. But we're talking about top 10 players in their prime. So you're talking about Anthony Davis. You're talking about Kawhi Leonard, right? You're talking about guys in their prime that are top 10 players, right? I would still count Kyrie Irving in that scenario as well. So players like that, these type of players, which are only about 10, teams are willing to give them 4 and 5 year contracts because they want those players on their teams long term. Okay. Everybody else, guys past their prime that are still good, guys that are not as good but are good, teams are wanting to limit them to 2 or 3 years to keep flexibility because all the teams are trying to sign one of the top 10 players if they ever become available. So all the teams want that flexibility. Okay. Now, how you overcome that is if you draft and develop a player that wasn't a superstar when he was drafted, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo. But over the course of time in your organization, he develops into a superstar. Then you surround him with a team that fits his talents so that you can win. Okay? That's the Milwaukee Bucks. That's the Phoenix Suns, right? They both were in that similar situation. And so that's how you bring in very strong complementary pieces and for that superstar that you developed, right? So Devin Booker, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So you try to do it that way. So what you're seeing now, and this is important for your Knicks fans that are always crying for a superstar and wanting to trade away half the team. What you're seeing teams do, which is very smart, and Leon Rose is a chess master in this game, is they're preparing for the superstar. But if the superstar doesn't show up, they keep costs under control so that every few years, when a group of them are available, they're ready to pounce and make trades or whatever they need to do to be in position to get one if one wants to come to them. Okay? Because it's really up to the players. And this is another thing. In the past in the NBA, when a trade was done, it was a trade. Done. You're gone. That's where you're going to play. That's your new team. But it's not like that now. Players have a lot more power. So when you're a top 10 player in the NBA, you can pretty much choose what team you want to play on. Okay? So because of that, teams want to be in a position to be attractive to the top 10. Okay? That's really what this boils down to. So the New York Knicks. Right now, we just come off a season where we're the 4 seed. And the Knicks are on an upward trajectory. Okay? So now, this coming season, the expectation is the playoffs. It's not going to be a surprise that the Knicks make the playoffs. Now the thing is, how deep can we go? Now, at this point, there is no real top 10 player available. There have been sniffs about Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard, both top 10 NBA players. But it's not official. There's just rumors. Okay? So the Knicks have placed themselves in a position with the draft picks they have accumulated, with the young players they have, that if one of these players decides they would like to sign with the Knicks, and that's what it comes down to, the superstar makes the decision. The teams work around the superstar. That's how it is these days. So if Bradley Beal decides, I want to go to the Knicks, the Knicks are in a position to pay him what it's going to cost and to give up the assets that it's going to take to make that happen. Okay? So right now, in this free agency, the way we have to look at it is Leon Rose, and again, he's a master at this. Him and Brock Allen, look, I'm going to tell you straight, it don't get any better than these two guys. Okay? Those of you in Knicks Nation that ain't caught up to that yet, I can't help you. But some of y'all know, it don't get any better than these two guys. Okay? We got San Antonio style management right now. Okay? We got that. Okay? And we got our owner staying the heck out the way. This is exactly the position you want to be in. So they are looking at this like this, and it's flexible. You have to be fluid. So what they're doing is, listen, if we got an inkling, because they're talking behind the scenes, and this is another thing I love. The Knicks are talking behind the scenes and nobody knows what's going on. There's no leaks. No leaks. People guessing, but nobody knows. Okay. Now there's certain things they let out the bag, but you got to be careful and you got to look at it. Some of y'all don't watch. Like I told y'all, they're not going to draft nobody that they didn't interview and that they didn't work out. And some of y'all were just, oh, Sharif Cooper. Oh, they got to get Cam. They got to do this. And I told y'all, Tom Thibodeau said, listen, we're looking for shooters, but y'all had to understand he wants defense always, right? So when you're talking about a Cam Thomas who can't play and don't care to play defense, you got to know he's not looking at that guy. Okay? You got to know he's not looking at that guy. Now, some of y'all like Trey Mann. They were looking at Trey Mann. Okay? They wanted Trey Mann, but Trey Mann was gone, right? The players, though, at the top of the pile for Tibbs were Grimes and McBride. So they gave you those hints is what I'm saying. But if you're paying attention, you saw if you had on your own ideas, you're going to be disappointed, which a lot of these people tried to mock all these different outlets giving Knicks low grades because they wanted the Knicks to choose a certain player. But the Knicks were never interested in the player these people wanted, these talking heads wanted. The Knicks knew what they wanted. Okay? Now, they also now, information like this is letting us know who is on the radar. Now look, Ian Begley also reported just this past week that the Knicks were going to make it a priority to re-sign Reggie Bullock. They said no such thing about Alec Burks, but they said specifically Reggie Bullock because he's a Thibodeau favorite. Okay? Plus, Reggie Bullock, hate him or not, he played good defense for us this past year. He shot over 40% from the field this past year. Okay? Now, I don't believe he's a starter on a championship team. He's a bench piece. But let's see where this is going because now Evan Fournier is talking to the Knicks. Now, one thing we know, last year, there were players like Bogdan Bogdanovic that the Knicks were interested in. There were players like Danilo Gallinari. The Knicks were interested in these guys, but they all wanted more than 2 or 3 year contracts. And the Knicks weren't budging on that. And they're not going to budge this year. So Evan Fournier may want to come to New York. He wanted 4 years, $80 million from the Celtics. And the Bible, the paper said they are far apart. Like they're not even close. They're negotiating. They're not even close. So look for the Knicks to do like a 3 year deal with a team option on the 3rd year, right? For Evan Fournier. They might do that. 3 years, 60 or 2 years, 45, right? Something like that. But they're not going to go on more than 3 years. Okay. Cause that's how we're doing this, right? Now, that would affect Reggie Bullock because also it was reported that the most the Knicks could offer Reggie Bullock, which is the most anybody really would offer him, is 4 years and around $46 million, something in that $45 million, 41, 45 million. Let's say 4 years, 45. That's the most the Knicks could offer him according to NBA rules. And no other team would pay more than that. Nobody's going to give Reggie Bullock a 4-year deal. It's like I said, based on the way the NBA is going right now. Nobody's going to do that unless he's the final piece to a championship. And I don't see that. Okay. So with that in mind, the Knicks will probably offer him a 2-year deal, which is originally what he signed, $21 million, which is a 10 or 11 million a year, which is a little about his market value, maybe slightly above. Okay. So now it's between Evan Fournier and Reggie Bullock. So see how they're keeping it flexible. If Bullock gets an offer for more than that from somebody, they're going to let him walk. And they're going to talk to Evan Fournier. And if Fournier don't want 2 years, 45 million, they're going to let him walk. Cause you know why? Cause they just drafted Grimes. And I don't care what. Grimes may not start this year cause he's a rookie, but he's definitely coming off the bench on the wing side. Okay. And he might start, but it ain't a sure thing with Tom Thibodeau, but he's definitely going to be in the rotation. Okay. Grimes is going to earn his way in the rotation this year. So, and I'm going to tell you what, he's only 1 year away from starting. Okay. He's only 1 season away from starting. I know they would want a veteran in there this year to get us to the playoffs and help Grimes learn in the playoffs, which is where Bullock comes in, which is where Evan Fournier, somebody going to take that 2 year money though. Somebody going to take it. Okay. So that's where we are there. Now, another change, Westbrook going to the Lakers changes a lot. Westbrook going to the Lakers is a shifter right there. Number one, you heard the Lakers were trying to acquire Buddy Hield. Okay. The Kings are trying to sign their center. All this works together. Richaun Holmes, who I like, Richaun Holmes as a player, he's looking for a 4-year deal. Okay. And they're negotiating that because again, teams are not trying to give up 4 years. Now they'll do it for their rookies because they're on rookie contracts. But for a veteran, they want they want to keep flexibility. Okay. So Richaun Holmes and them are negotiating. And so they're going to need a 4. Okay. They're shopping the young boy they drafted Bagley. They're shopping him. So they're going to need a 4. Okay. So that's a possibility. The Westbrook to LA shuts down the LA Buddy Hield thing because LA ain't got no money now. He ain't got no money. They ain't got no money to do that. Okay. So that's that. So now you got 3 possibilities on the wing. You got Buddy Hield, you got Evan Fournier, and you got our own Reggie Bullock. And the Knicks are going to be flexible on all of those. Okay, they're going to keep their flexibility. So you're talking, I think Hield has 2 or 3 years left on his deal. Let me just look that up. I think Buddy Hield, that may be a detriment because I know they definitely don't want long-term contracts. I know they don't want long-term contracts. So let's see what his contract is. And that'll tell you right there if they're really going after him or not. That'll tell you. All right. So he signed a 4-year, $94 million deal. And this is the second year of that deal. So he got 3 more years, this year and 2 more seasons left on that deal. Yeah. This year and 2 more seasons. That's borderline, right? That's borderline. So they might go for him. They may not, but that shows you where we're looking at and why we're looking at it. Okay. Now the point guard situation. Last week I told you that it could be Kyle Lowry, Chris Paul, or Colin Sexton as the point guard they were signed this week. I told you that last week. Now the only change to that is that Westbrook situation. Why? Because Washington sent Westbrook out. Westbrook was costing them $40 million. Dinwiddie now becomes an option. Dinwiddie becomes an option. Why does that matter? Because now Miami is back in the game for CP3. Not CP3, for Kyle Lowry. Miami's back in the game for Kyle Lowry. See, I counted them out because I was telling y'all last week, watch Dinwiddie sign with Miami. Now, Lowry ain't going to go to Washington. He's not going to Washington. And there's rumors now that he could go to New Orleans. I would be very surprised if he actually went to New Orleans. I know they're gearing up to be able to sign him. They're gearing up to let Lonzo Ball walk, and I don't know how that's going to work out. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to guarantee you right now, the Knicks are not signing Lonzo Ball. None of y'all won't receive that, just like you wouldn't receive, I was telling you there's 100% chance they were not drafting Sharif Cooper. I told you that. And some of y'all just wouldn't receive that. So y'all light your candles for Lonzo Ball. But he's not coming here. Because you know why? Again, why? He wants 4 years. They ain't giving him 4 years. They're not giving any point guard they signed this year 4 years. Okay? So forget Lonzo Ball. That's not happening. Put that out your mind. I know it hurts, some of y'all. Okay? But no, it's not happening. All right? So even though he's young, they're not giving him 4 years. Okay? So now, what? New Orleans is trying to be in a position to sign Kyle Lowry. And people are saying, see, the media, you got to kind of filter out the Nick hate because people are putting Philly, in the running for Lowry because he's from Philly. As long as they got Ben Simmons on their team, that's not happening. It's not happening because why? They don't have the money. They don't have the money. Okay? They don't have it. So now, Washington is in a position to sign Dinwiddie. Miami is now, Pat Riley's slick enough to open up doors. They will have 20 million, maybe 22 million in cap space. They have to make a couple more moves because they got to sign. They're going to sign Duncan Robinson. They're going to sign Nunn. And again, we could put the squeeze on them to make those numbers go up. So we're going to see. They may have to give them longer term deals to keep them. So this is going to be interesting. But CP3, he really wants to stay. I got the feeling from Friday to today, he really wants to stay in Phoenix. I mean, it makes sense. His kids are getting big now. They live in California. It's less than an hour on a private jet from Phoenix to LA where where he's living. And so, he wants to stay, but he ain't going to take no shorts, right? CP3 ain't taking no shorts. So it really comes down to the owner of the Suns. If he comes out and the numbers now, and this is another thing that may change stuff. I just told you, the Knicks are not going to pay CP3 or Lowry no more than 2 years. That's a 2-year deal. Okay. They're not budging on that, and I don't blame them. Okay. And so they're in the running from those two players. But from what I heard, from what I've been reading, I think it was Shams reporting that Utah is prepared to offer a 3-year, $90 million deal to Mike Conley. Now, that's a dumb move. Okay, it's a dumb move, but that's their business. If that sets the market for CP3 and Kyle Lowry. If they offer Mike Conley 3 years, $90 million, the other teams that are interested in these other two guys would have to do that. Now, whether Phoenix does that, I don't know. Whether New Orleans do it. So now, Kyle Lowry going to New Orleans makes them a playoff team, but they ain't going nowhere. It's not like they could win a championship, right? So him going there would be strictly on the money, right? So if they offered him 3 years, $90 million, he's going to sign in New Orleans because he's going to get that cash, right? But that takes them off of our table, right? And that now brings a whole new set of point guards in there, because if indeed that's true and Utah signs Mike Conley to 3 years, 90, now CP3 is looking for 3 years and Lowry's looking for 3 years. And I don't believe Leon is going to give them that. Much as Leon loves CP3, not 3 years, $90 million worth, y'all. I don't think so. So that's going to put them out the running. They would be with the Knicks if they were willing to come on a 2-year deal. One of them would be. That brings us back to Sexton, because now we're looking at low-cost options. Sexton is a low-cost option. So it depends on what Cleveland wants to do. Sexton becomes somebody that they'll look at. And also now you got to look hard at the other options we talked about, the 3-year, $51 million deals options with 2-year team options that I was telling you about for Cameron Payne, Kendrick Nunn, Devontae Graham. You got to look at that now, because, the Knicks are not going to go more than 3 years on anybody. Okay. We got to maintain our flexibility. The good thing is we just got 2 studs, 2 dogs in the draft. Some of y'all don't recognize, but we got 2 dogs in this draft. Okay. We really did. 2 impact players we just got, and we got them cheap. Leon is a genius, man. Leon and Brock, they're gone. So we just got them cheap. The only people that got over as good as us, to me, in this draft were the Atlanta Hawks, because they got Sharif Cooper at 48. I mean, I wasn't for the Knicks drafting Sharif Cooper, but they're going, that's a first-round talent. That boy's a first-round talent, and he going to make people pay. And I was actually feeling bad for him being drafted at 48. I thought that was disrespecting Sharif Cooper. And so I think Sharif getting ready to do work in Atlanta behind Trae Young. And having him come off the bench behind Trae Young, it's like you have Trae Young again. So there's that. And then, of course, Utah Jazz got over in drafting Jared Butler at 40. They're going. So now they got Conley, they got Butler on a rookie deal, and of course they got Donovan Mitchell, a budding MVP style player. So, they set in the backcourt. They really are. But they messed up if they're going to sign Conley to 3 years, $90 million. That, whatever. But that's their business. So for us, we're still looking at all the players I told you. Lowry, CP3, and Sexton. They still in the running. It's all dependent on what those players are willing to sign for. I could not believe when I heard, and I still don't believe until I see it, that some teams are going to offer Lowry 3 years, $90 million. I can't get over that. Or that CP3 is going to get that from Phoenix. I can't see that because of the way, like I said, the way the league is trending. I could see Phoenix doing it, but New Orleans would be dumb to do it because they're not going to make a championship run. The Phoenix Suns were just in the NBA Finals. So I could kind of justify that, because if they want to keep the whole crew together, right? And, and they could do that. And they picked up, I think they just got Larry Shamet. It's okay. So they're going to lose Cameron Payne, but they get Larry Shamet. They're still in good shape. So I could see them overpaying to make that championship run. But New Orleans, that don't make no sense to me. So I still see a strong possibility of both Sexton and Lowry. there's a 50-50 for CP3 because I don't know what that owner is going to do. He's notoriously cheap. You know he don't want to come off the loop. They may offer him 2 years, and he may take that because he wants to stay in Phoenix. He really does. So if they offer him 2, and that's probably what I think will happen. They're going to offer him 2 years, 60, and he'll probably stay in Phoenix for that. Okay, so we're still looking at Lowry. We're still looking at Sexton. And then of course there's the low cost option. So to wrap it up, we're looking at Evan Fournier on the wing. We're looking at Reggie Bullock on the wing, and we're looking also at Buddy Hield on the wing. Those are 3 wing possibilities. There's still the Duncan Robinson possibility, but I don't think Pat Riley's going to let him go. I think Pat Riley's going to match that. They're going to want Duncan Robinson. They're going to want Kendrick Nunn as well. So I don't see them letting those 2 guys go, but it's going to hinder them in the Lowry sweepstakes. Okay. So that's what we're talking about there. Not impossible, but Riley's he's a shifty dude. He's a crafty dude. So, you don't know what he can come up with to get that money so that he can give it to Lowry, but nobody's going to do more than 2 years on them if they smart. So this is going to be an interesting week. So again, look for Fournier, Buddy Hield, and then look for CP3, on the point guard front. And then of course there's the second tier options of Devontae Graham, Cameron Payne, and Kendrick Nunn. Those are your guys. Okay. Forget Dinwiddie. Because he's going to get big money. He's going to get a 4-year deal to go to either Washington or Miami. He's going to get a 4-year deal. That's why you're going to see that Westbrook thing opened up a lot, especially now Washington wants to keep certain people named Beal happy, right? So they can compete for a playoff spot if they bring Spencer Dinwiddie in there. They can compete for a playoff spot with a Beal, with Dinwiddie, and the crew that they already got with Rui Hachimura. They got a good crew there. They can compete. So that's where we are right now. Tomorrow, 6:00 is the beginning of free agents, and all this is going to shake out. It's going to be wild. But I'm very confident that our team is going to come out. First of all, the most important thing, the Knicks are going to come out as a better team at the end of this free agent period than they ended the season with in Atlanta. They're going to come out with a better team. Whatever the players I just named, one of the point guards and one of them wings, if they were on the Knicks this coming season with what we just drafted, we're a better team. I'm not sure now about Derrick Rose. I hope they re-sign him. He's a Tibbs favorite, but looking at what we just said, name a point guard, there's a starter right there. Now you got Emmanuel Quickly, right? And you got Miles McBride coming off the bench. Okay. If you have that type of team, we're in good shape, because while last year Derrick Rose was the only guard we had that was getting to the basket, now you got whoever they're going to pick from the point guards available, plus Emmanuel Quickly, plus Deuce McBride in your rotation. And then of course, whoever you get on the wing, you're going to have RJ and that person, whether those 3 players I told you about, and then you're going to have Grimes coming behind them. You're going to give Obi more minutes behind Randall this year, unless you trade him to the Kings, which I hope they don't do, or to the Cleveland Cavaliers, which also I hope they don't do, but that's a possibility. So you're going to have Obi coming behind Randall. Now I can still see them, even though they drafted Jericho Sims. I think they're still going to get a veteran backup 5. Some of y'all mentioned Taj, and Taj is a veteran, but you all know he's getting older, right? You don't want to put too much dependence on him. So yes, you can use him as a backup 5 or a backup 4. But I think they would try to get a Robin. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Robin Lopez type of guy. I don't know if it's him, but somebody like him. Somebody that's a 1-year deal that they can bring, like they brought in Nerlens last year. Because I don't think Nerlens is going to stay this year. And again, we're only offering 2 years. That's a possibility because, like I said, because of the trend of the league, I don't think Nerlens is going to get more than 2 years from anybody. Okay, so we'll see what happens. This is all fluid. But at the end, one thing I'm guaranteeing y'all, Knicks Nation, we're going to be a better team this training camp than we were last training camp. We're going to be a better team. And even, we should be in a much better, stronger position to compete. Everybody's getting better. So I'm expecting us to still be a top 6 team in the East this year, based on what's going to happen this week. With the strong management we have, with the coach we have, with the staff we have, we're going to be a better team. So y'all look out for that. But we all good. Please enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe out there. This is Raw Hebrew Remnant. Shalom.